Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Sam, and in today's video, it's the beginning of February, so it's time to do my January wrap up. I had a very small reading month this month compared to basically any month in 2024. We were visiting family just after New Year's when I thought I was going to get some reading done, but that did not really happen the way that I expected. And then this is the last time I'm going to say this. I'm going to just leave it here one more time and I'm going to be done with it. I was sick for basically the entire month of January, and there was a week where I wasn't reading anything. So honestly, 8 books is a feat. I'm glad that I was able to get through 8 books. But anyway, let's just jump in. There is one book from December that I finished after filming my last wrap up, but still before the last day of the month. So I wanted to still talk about it, and that was Nothing Like the Movies by Lynn Painter. This is the second book to Better Than the Movies. I ended up rating this 3.5 stars. I thought it was cute and definitely realistic to what life can be like once you move off to college, but I felt like it was pretty drawn out and a little bit unnecessary. They kept referencing to the fact that it had been so long since they had been together, they were apart for so long, just it's been so long, and in reality it had only been 2 years, which obviously in the reality of this period of time a lot can change in a very short window, but it really hadn't been that long. Like, just the way that they were talking made it seem like it had been a decade, and it wasn't. So every time I put the book down, I was thinking about what was happening to the characters, and even after I finished it, I wanted to know what they were doing just in their daily lives, which obviously has not continued, but I did enjoy it. I really like Lynn Painter's writing. I do want to make it a priority to read more of her adult romances this year, because I think I've read all of her YA romances. Maybe there might be another one that I haven't read yet, but I do really like her books and I want to read more of them. So now for January, the first book that I read was Same Time Next Year by Tessa Bailey. This is a novella that is set, it begins on and finishes on New Year's Eve. I thought the plot was really cute. In this book, we're following our female main character who works at a bar and is kind of, I don't know, a little bit stuck in her ways, and she ends up marrying a hockey player so that he can stay and play in the States. But it was a very like contractual situation where they were getting to know each other just for, I guess, his visa or whatever documents he needed to be able to stay in the States. I really liked that each chapter was a little bit more in the future, and we got to see them like kind of growing together. So it definitely, even though it was a novella, it didn't feel like it was a very quick relationship or anything. Like, you really got to see them like learn about each other and grow together and make like an actual informed decision about this relationship. But this month was really cringy, wasn't good, and it also took me so long to get through. I don't know if that was the book, or I think I was still sort of in the midst of a reading slump, which definitely continued through January, I think. Then the next book that I read was Phantasma by Kaylee Smith, and this one I also rated 3 stars. This is the book that I was reading when I was taking my like week-long hiatus. I just never really wanted to pick this up. It took me a really long time to get through. I really enjoyed the like gothic games setting, but it really felt like nothing was happening. And even in each of these trials, it was only one chapter, and sometimes they were the shortest chapter in the book. So it felt like we didn't actually get anything from our main character in these trials and in these games, which felt like it was supposed to be the whole point of the book. I also feel like the relationship came out of nowhere. There was no build-up. It was just all of a sudden they were like into each other. I did see the ending coming from a mile away. I definitely guessed the twist, but I am intrigued to read book 2 and like to see what happens next. But yeah, it just did not live up to the hype for me, unfortunately. So I was pretty excited about that one. Next, I read The Hunted Heir by Holly Renee. This is book 2 in the, I don't remember what the series is called. This is book 2 in a series. All of these books are very short. This one was just under 200 pages or just right around 200 pages. And I ended up rating this 2.5 stars because literally nothing happened. This book was pointless in terms of the plot of the story. I feel like this book could have either been lumped in with book 1 or split between book 1 and 3 and just been a duology, because without giving anything away, like, we didn't gain anything in terms of like moving the plot forward. It felt like we were just running in circles. I really feel like our main character was very naive. As the reader, I could see exactly what was coming and what was happening. It was just very frustrating. Don't get me wrong, I didn't dislike my time reading this. Like, I was having fun picking it up. It was very quick to read. But when I got to the end, I was like, that were not, like, nothing happened. We didn't get anywhere. So I'm hoping that book 3 kind of redeems this for me. Book 1 was okay to me. I thought it was fun, but nothing great. And yeah, this one wasn't very good to me. So I'm hoping book 3 is good, but we'll see. I think it's supposed to be coming out later this year, but I'm not 100% sure. Next, Emily and I continued our buddy reads, and we read the last book in the Gold Rush Ranch series by Elsie Silver, which is A False Start. This one felt different to some of her other books, and I don't think I could put my finger on why. I ended up rating this one 4 stars. It was definitely not my favorite of all of the books that I have read by Elsie Silver. It also felt a bit choppy or time jumpy. Like, we would get just the beginning of like a family dinner or something, and then that would end. And I feel like normally we would get a bit more. I also felt like the book was kind of slow, and I wasn't really connected to either of the characters, and their relationship felt kind of physical. Both of their pasts were really heartbreaking, and I appreciate the way that they helped each other through it, or at least helped motivate each other through some of the things that they were working through. I will say the third act conflict made me want to chuck my book across the room, and Emily can attest to that. I said those exact words when we were chatting about it, but the ending kind of made it up for me. I've definitely enjoyed some of her other books better than this one, but very sad to be finished with the Gold Rush Ranch series. Very happy to be finished another series on my list, though. Next, I read The End and Then by Hannah Bird and ended up rating this one 4 stars as well. This was also very heart-wrenching. In this book, we're following our main character who is, I guess, running away from her traumatic past and ends up moving in with her friend in this small town to work at her friend's bar and sort of, I guess, rediscover herself. I really appreciated the mental health representation, and I really appreciated the way that it was discussed and explained. It felt very realistic to therapy and healing, but I will say the time jumps were kind of weird. The flow was a little bit choppy to me, and I didn't fully feel the relationship connection, but I could not put this book down, and I have book 2 on my February TBR, and I'm very excited to get back to seeing some of these characters and seeing what's going to happen in the next book. But it was a very quick read, and I think helped me get my momentum back a little bit. Then next, I listened to Be Ready When the Luck Happens by Ina Garten. This is her memoir, and I also rated this 4 stars. I know that a lot of people don't rate memoirs, which understandably, I definitely am not rating the content of the books. Like, your life is your life and you should be able to share it. My ratings are more based on the production and construction of whoever's story. And the way that Ina wrote this one, it flowed really well, and just, I loved listening to her story. I grew up watching The Barefoot Contessa. I Loved watching basically any cooking show I could get my hands on, and hearing about her childhood was so upsetting, but also listening to how she seemingly lived like so many lives before she found herself in the food industry and created this beautiful life for herself just was so inspiring and definitely exactly what I needed at the time. Thoroughly enjoyed listening to this one and just really made me want to watch Barefoot Contessa again. Next, the only physical book that I read this month was Onyx Storm by Rebecca Yarros, which if you haven't seen, I posted a bonus reading vlog this month reading this book, and once again, I rated it 4 stars. I had a very 4-star heavy like last 2 weeks of the month. I'm still feeling very conflicted about this book. I am very excited to be back in this world, back with these characters, but I think with being in a reading slump for honestly 2 months at this point, I really felt the external social pressures of just trying to read this before I got a spoiler on the internet. Yeah, I tried to really go into this book totally blind with no expectations. And even though I didn't have expectations and I didn't know really how this book was going to go, I feel like it still didn't go the way that I thought it would, if that makes any sense. I know in my reading vlog, I talked a lot about the characters that were introduced that seemingly showed up that we had never been introduced to before. And although I think there's still some truth to that, there was also quite a few characters that I didn't necessarily remember who they were specifically, but I recognized. I think my biggest issue as I get farther and farther away from finishing this book is the fact that we were led along these strings of information and then just switched gears and were seemingly expected to forget about it. I didn't forget. I was really irritated that we didn't get those thoughts finished, especially being in Violet's head when she was putting these pieces together, but we didn't know what these pieces were that she put together. It just really bothered me. Parts of the ending also felt a bit like a cop-out to me. And if you have read this book and want to discuss anything, feel free to DM me. I'm open to discussing this book, or honestly any book. Reach out. I love to chat about books. But yeah, I don't know. I think the more that I think about this book, the more that I just really want to do a full reread of everything. So we'll see if I can make that happen at some point. I definitely think that I will need to reread all of them before whenever book 4 comes out, because there's just a lot of information in all of these books. And the very last book that I read in January was another audiobook, and that was The House of My Mother by Sherry Franke. So I watched the 8 Passengers YouTube channel when I was, I think, in high school, and getting to hear Sherry's story of what actually was going on was heartbreaking. And this was really the first memoir that, even with the way that I rate them, didn't feel right rating them, but I did land on a 4-star rating for this one. Just very heartbreaking. I don't really have anything else to say about this. If you did watch the 8 Passengers YouTube channel, I would highly recommend reading this book. The audiobook was also very well done. It was narrated by Sherry herself. And even if you didn't watch 8 Passengers, I still think that this is an interesting read based on the various like family vlog channels that are out, and just really reminds you that like what you see in videos is definitely not the whole story. That's everything. Those are all of the books that I read in the last month. If you've read any of these books as well, please let me know. I would love to chat with you about them. And also let me know what your favorite book from January was. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a like so that I know. I really hope that you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.